This video right here marks a new beginning for my personal life journey, my business, as well as the YouTube channel right here. And to mark this beginning, I want to give you a bit of an overview and a look behind the scenes of my past 15 or so years where I dreamt about success, failed a lot, don't really feel accomplished at this point at 34, and also the travels that came along the way, which some actually might see as hugely successful. Now, many of you might not even know a lot about my personal journey, which is probably because I haven't really shared much in the last 3 or 4 years, as in my personal life journey, the YouTube channels, or my business's journey. I focused heavily on product reviews and tutorials. Now, before that, I actually did sometimes share about my journey, but that oftentimes is much harder than one thinks. The judgment that you might fear, the unimportance of your specific personal life experience, or any number of other arguments that go against that. Other bigger YouTubers don't really have to share these journeys or have to kind of like make a case for this type of content. But over the years, I've seen so many smaller or mid-sized YouTubers share about their journeys on their channels, and those videos have helped me so much to recalibrate my personal experience so that I think that it is important to also share my part in this. I also think that it's kind of like a psychological process to think through all of this, document it, and put it somewhere so that at some point in the future, you might actually be able to kind of like look back at this and see how far you've come. Now, for everyone that is kind of new here, my name is Chris, and I've been making YouTube videos on this channel for many, many years. For the most part, focused on technical reviews and tutorials. Now, in the last 1.5 years or so, I actually slowed down a lot with the publishing. And that break, even though it was absolutely needed and necessary, made it increasingly hard for me to actually jump back into the game. To demonstrate this point, I actually had an outline for this exact video to jumpstart back into my YouTube journey about 8 weeks ago. And since then, I've been pretty much procrastinating on just sitting down, filming it, and doing it. The reason behind this type of like slow process is something along the lines of, I haven't been on the platform for a while. Who am I to even post anything on this platform? Who am I to begin with as a person, as a business, as a character here on YouTube? All of these questions. And actually, they're not that much different from someone that just wants to start with YouTube to begin with. Even if you have never published anything on these platforms, you might actually wonder the exact same things. Now, at some point, I just had to grab myself by the neck and say, it is now time to do this. But all of that came actually with a bit of a clearness on where I want to go. As long as I didn't have that, it felt much more daunting to jump back in here and actually sit down and talk to you. Now, I have a better understanding of where I want to go with this YouTube channel, with my life, and with my business. And so here I am to give you a bit of an overview of what has happened in the last decade or so, what the successes were along the way, the failures, and why I feel that at 34, I haven't really accomplished much. Chapter 1. The dream of YouTube. Around 2006-2007, I was on YouTube for the very first time. And it showed me a completely new world. The very first actual video platform that had community at its core. There were people very personal on the platform, sharing their innermost thoughts, and also people sharing tutorials, information, and of course, cat videos. Around that time, there were not that many big YouTubers on the platform. When you had 50,000 subscribers or 100,000 subscribers, you were considered big. And if you had 1 million, probably half of YouTube basically knew you. Now today, that's a very different story. Nowadays, YouTube can feel more daunting. There's already these huge creators with millions of followers, sometimes even tens of millions of followers. But at the time, it was extremely personal, community-driven, and you felt like you had an actual connection there. And around that time, I actually had the desire to say, I actually would like to be on this platform. But then all of these questions come into play. who would actually watch this, what are my friends going to say, and how are the people that I am in school with going to react if they find out. And I actually saw it first person from some people that at the time started posting, and then the school found out, and people in the school didn't react quite as nicely as you might think. Of course, there's always this bit of a question like, who are you to actually post something on the internet? And the funny thing is that the criticism around that oftentimes comes from everyone else not doing anything on the platform. And to add to this experience, it's probably an experience that pretty much anyone starting out on the platform has. No matter how big they are nowadays, in the early days, everybody around just asks, who are you to publish on this platform? Now, obviously, at some point, I actually uploaded my very first video here on the platform. But in between then and now, there's a whole bunch of other stories. For the longest time, I was just a consumer on the platform like everyone else. And watching people like Sawyer Hartman, Lost LeBlanc, Boy in a Band, as well as a bunch of other German creators. Now, throughout that time, I always envisioned myself that I wanted to do this on this platform as well. I wanted to share my excitement about the different technologies that I was using, maybe go into programming and share what I learned there. Being surrounded by equipment, because I'm also kind of like a bit of a tech nerd if you haven't noticed, felt very interesting. Building the sets, using the camera equipment, and inspiring others to go out there, create something, build something, or show them ways and how to use certain tech pieces or softwares. So all of this was already kind of in myself. However, it wasn't until sometime in my 20s that I finally then ended up actually posting my very first video. At the time, a glide cam gimbal held shot video where I was just walking down some hiking paths in Germany. That marked the beginning of my YouTube journey, but it was far away from where I am now today. In between, there's years of not posting anything until I actually sat down and finally did one big challenge. Chapter 2, the early aspirations. Around the same time of all of this YouTube journey dreaming, I was also already entrepreneurial, even down to when I was 13 or 14 years old, working as a freelance programmer and web developer for some sports clubs as well as small businesses in the local area. All the time, I was thinking about doing projects, building something, figuring out how I could make something a business. I wasn't just kind of playing games, so to speak. I was actually considering and searching for solutions how the different things that I was doing could also be used and utilized to build something that, again, reaches more people, inspires others, or is just very much useful. And while doing that, just to be honest, I also always thought about how could I make money, ideally online and in a location-independent way, so that I could eventually either be completely free, travel the world, or at least make my own decisions. Now looking back, I see my younger self eager, ambitious, and full of energy, but unaware of a lot of the challenges along the way. The dreams of this younger version of myself were sometimes absolutely outrageous. But at the same time, there's plenty of 20-year-old people that actually achieve them. You want to fly a private jet, you want to have 10 million in the bank, you want to retire your parents, or just about buy whatever you want, travel whenever you want, and possibly have a very fun, exhilarating life. I used all kinds of methods to envision, manifest, or vision board this future. I put pictures of private islands, yachts, millions of dollars, fast cars, as well as just the smaller things in life. The cinema camera I would like to use, the next laptop to buy, and all of these dreams. The idea was to dream massively big, set outrageously high goals, because even if I only get 5% of that, that's already much, much more than most people. Now with this mindset and ambitions, I finished university. Already kind of bummed out because I already was working on many projects and ideas for previous years, even while studying, even while being still in school. But now I thought this is the liberation. I can finally do whatever I want. I can freelance and make some money so that then I can build the projects in the rest of the time to finally achieve it big, make something of myself, travel the world because now I'm no longer tied to any specific location. And all I have to do is make some money, ideally online, as a freelancer, with my own projects. This all felt so possible, so within reach. I felt capable, I felt strong and energized, and I marched forward. Chapter 3. The YouTube journey begins. Around this time, I actually built many different business ideas. KDB publishing was one thing, building an animated video studio for sales videos was another. But one thing always came back. I wanted to follow the YouTube dream. I wanted to make videos on this platform. But I was still only publishing once, maybe every 8 months, for one of those cinematic travel videos. Until I finally challenged myself to create 30 videos in 30 days. Most of those being some type of tutorial, photography related thing, or equipment review. Now I finally stepped in front of the camera and stopped hiding myself behind those cinematic B-roll shots of the travel videos which only had music as a layover. I showed my face, I showed my voice, and I think that that was an absolutely important turning point. However, in that you would think that I might actually continue. After 30 days and 30 videos, you already have a bit of a process. You've done the challenge once. Why not just keep doing it? But then you would assume that there's no internal dialogue, no questioning, no fear of failure, or daunting, unsuccessful statistics. In my particular case, after publishing a bit more than those 30 videos, I had my first hiatus from YouTube. And that was probably to a big degree due to the fact that after over 30 videos, I had just about 67 subscribers. Now for many, this might be an absolutely amazing statistic and motivation enough to keep going. For me, it felt like a grind. Every one video only gives you 1 or 2 subscribers. You really have to push and push and push. At the time, I didn't have the energy for it, and also the time, because making this amount of videos in a short period of time is time consuming, and my freelance work had to get done also. I went onto YouTube hiatuses all the time. I really struggled to keep any kind of regularity or a posting schedule. Even just once a week would have probably been a better idea. But for me, it was mostly 2-3 videos, and then for 8 months, nothing. Chapter 4. The first turning point. Now around the same time, I actually did enjoy some of the flexibilities and freedoms that came with being done with university, being in the digital realm as a freelancer, and basically trying to build my own software products, YouTube channel, and other ideas, which is that I was able to travel the world to a certain extent. I did live or spend time in Spain, Australia, Thailand, Bali, the US, as well as Malaysia and some other countries. In that time, I lived in those places mostly as a digital nomad, being in one place for rather long times, around 2 to 4 months, and just traveling very slowly. This gave me one specific opportunity, which was a bit of a connection to people that were in a very similar lifestyle to what I wanted for myself. A location-independent, ideally financially also somewhat independent lifestyle where you could meet interesting people along the way, spend your time in all kinds of different countries, experiencing new things here and there, and overall just doing what you really enjoyed. However, all of this came to a bit of a halt after about 2 years of traveling the world, when I actually had to, or kind of wanted to, return home at 29 to live at my mom's place. My freelancing was okay, but not stellar. The annoyance of always having to worry about visa all the time, different short-term rentals, sometimes you get a good one, sometimes you get a bad one. The finances aren't good enough to just simply book the thing that is actually inspiring you, where you actually want to stay. Constantly having to repack, having an irregular schedule, not knowing where you would be in 4 weeks was kind of draining me and wearing me down. For the first time, I actually started to feel like I haven't really achieved anything. None of my projects have kicked off. The YouTube channel was still very small, and I felt like people are passing me by. People that I was studying with, they kind of like had the first successes. They might be promoted to a senior role in the field that they studied. Or build their own companies with a much different approach. Returning home at 29, I really felt defeated. But it was also the starting point of the first turning point of my life. I ended up meeting my now partner Nicole, moving into an apartment with her that I actually quite liked and gave me a lot of opportunities. Facing the whole challenging phase of COVID together and finding a little bit of YouTube and affiliate partner success. Now, one of those big building blocks, in my opinion, for myself was actually the apartment. It was about 110 square meters in a small town where I grew up in, and it gave us a lot of freedom, especially in the time of COVID. Because we were at that time then both working from home, it gave us the space to do this separately. I had a whole studio for YouTube, and that is actually where most of the videos that you now see on my channel were created. It was an environment that really inspired me and gave me all of the tools that I needed for the creation process. It also gave me the freedom to let stuff lie around if I don't feel like making that video just about right now, and I could always come back to it. Something that I was always struggling with on travels, and by the way, noticed again now as I am making this video on travels and struggling with the fact that it's not perfect. Now, we ended up being in this apartment for almost 2.5 years, and toward the back end of that, we decided that we wanted to go back onto travels again. But right before that, something magnificent happened, which is the big turning point for myself in my life journey. And that is that I actually managed to grow the YouTube channel to over 1,000 subscribers, start making money from the AdSense in that time, and then also building into the affiliate earnings through Amazon and other partner programs, as well as the videos published on the Amazon platform itself. So by September 2022, for the first time in my life, I actually was able to completely sustain my life from the earnings through YouTube and Amazon and other affiliate partners. And that was a huge step for this journey, but also the beginning of a bit of a situation that I am not necessarily super proud of. And even though that's the case, it was finally the time to actually take a breath for me. I didn't have to continue publishing with the same exact crazy schedule and try to do freelance work and try to build the business that is like, it was so much that fell off me at that moment when I realized that YouTube and Amazon affiliate will actually pay for my life for the next few months. Now, at the same time, we were also building everything else into the direction of going digital and completely moving everything to a remote or location-independent lifestyle. We also created the Niama Academy in that whole time where we were living in this apartment in Hof. And then in November 2022, made the decision to actually go back into the nomadic and traveling lifestyle. Chapter 5, the present and beyond. So YouTube and content creation finally gave me a bit of a room to breathe. After many years, now at 14,000 subscribers and almost 4 million views here on the channel, I had the opportunity to take a bit of a break and reconsider where I wanted to take all of this. But this work also finally gave me the opportunity to go back into this lifestyle that I wanted to lead, which is a location-independent life with more freedom. No more having to do freelance work if I didn't want to, being able to work on the project that I really want to take more energy into, building the Niama Academy with Nicole, and starting to go travel again. And so Nicole and I did exactly that. We sold pretty much everything, put some things in storage, and packed our bags to travel the world as location-independent business owners. And now we lived 5 months in Thailand, 2 months in Cyprus, 2 months in Vietnam, and 4 months in Bali. And it was an absolutely incredible experience. We moved our businesses from Germany to Estonia so that they are completely digitized and can be run from about anywhere in the world. At this point, we even started to work with multiple other yoga teachers in the Niama Academy. But despite being able to enjoy this flexibility and independence, as well as the low cost of living here in Asia, I can't shake the feeling that the early aspirations of my 20-year-old self, now at almost 34, haven't come to fruition. And that brings me to a feeling of being unaccomplished. not having achieved what I set out to achieve, not being good enough, and maybe also not really being made for success. It's a really strange combination of feelings. Because on one hand, of course, I had some freedoms and flexibilities. I am living a very different life to what most consider normal. I spend time in countries where others only go for holidays. And I have the opportunity to spend months at a time there. I can decide when to work and when not to work. Throughout the last 2 years at least, I was able to do that pretty much without freelance work or anything like that. YouTube and affiliate income from Amazon was paying my bills as if I had a huge investment in dividend stocks that were just paying me back because I had put in so much work to begin with, and then I was reaping the rewards. But it's also a massive difference between this small level of freedom that I earned myself in comparison to the goals that I set out for myself. I am not able to fly whenever I want, or have flown business class even once on my own. I have not been able to get the apartments or villa rentals that I want, and still have to consider a lot of these things every time we book a house, a flight, consider if we can even pay for a rental car or if we have to go other ways. With my 34th birthday coming up, I also more and more have this feeling of responsibility growing on me that there's other life stresses that I will have to take care of in the future as well. And I also have more and more of a reality check in terms of who am I or who do I want to be as a man in this life. The ideas and ideals from the early 20-year-old were outrageously high numbers for just making it a successful life. Now there's more and more of a question of how can I be there for the people around me. And so it hasn't really stopped, and I haven't really stopped wanting those goals and achieving those goals. However, I have to realize that I am still a massive way away from that, if not even being in a certain way at the same place where I was when I was 20. And so with a certain reluctance, I acknowledge that I have achieved a little bit of success. I've built a bit of freedom for myself, but I also have to scale it back and say, I'm still at the very beginning in comparison to the audacious goals that I set for myself when I was about 24. And I still want to get to many of those. Maybe not all of them, because I might have had a reality check, but I still want to become a fuller version of myself, take responsibility for you, my audience, to create inspiring, educational, entertaining content, take responsibility for my family, for my friends, for myself, for my partner, Nicole, and to overall build more, become better, step out of my comfort zone, and get toward those goals that I set for myself. And with that, my break from YouTube is over, and I'm ready to step out of my comfort zone again, step into the responsibilities, and step into the work that lies ahead. Conclusion. This journey has been about more than just chasing the dreams that I've set for myself when I was 20 years old. It's a lesson of life. It's a journey of resilience and learning how to be with myself. Throughout the last 15 years, I've learned a lot. I've grown and built. But the future has so much more to offer. In the next video, I will go into a little bit more detail in specific parts of this journey, and most notably talking about this feeling of feeling unaccomplished, even though there are some small successes, and how I am planning to turn this around. All of this goes into a bit of an area of documenting more, sharing more of the behind the scenes and being excited about it again. For a while now, I was so much held back and just focused on trying to only showcase products and tutorials. Again, somewhat stepping behind the camera. Now, I want to step out of that shadow and give you more of a real life look at the journey that I have gone through as an entrepreneur, even though I am not yet 100% successful. A lot of people step onto this field when they are already millionaires, and then they can share certain knowledge that I might not have at this time. But I also think that there is an incredible value in sharing the journey. I want to step back into this with a new energy, a new direction and dedication to basically continue documenting this journey of my life, the businesses that I'm building, the learnings that come along the way, out of the perspective of someone that is currently going through it. And I hope that that journey sounds interesting to you. It has something to do with the personal. It has something to do with just applied knowledge about business. And it also might still continue to include products and showcases of the things that I am working with and find inspiring as a tech nerd. So with all of that said, I hope you build an amazing life for yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.